welcome back to the Fit Like Krys podcast. I have a really amazing, special, awesome guest today that I'm so excited to talk to, and I feel like we haven't caught up in a little while, so this podcast might be half catch up, like you're listening to a phone conversation of ours, and also we're going to get into some stuff that she is an expert on, and also that I'm just curious about these days. So I would like to welcome our next guest. She is from New Jersey. That's actually where we met in Morristown, but she now lives in Manhattan Beach. She is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, specializing in sports nutrition and eating behavior, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. She has a lot of letters on the end of her signature. She got an MSRDC. I don't even know what all this stuff means. Yeah, she'll tell us. Essentially, she's a trainer. She can tell you how to eat. She can tell you how to move, and the whys behind that stuff. And she is recently the founder of Athena Athletics. And her mission is to empower women to fueling their bodies better and to feel more confident in a weight room. That's a real specific mission. I love it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Thanks for flying all the way from California just for the Fit Like Krys.
Yeah. It's more of like, when I'm flying here and let's add Crystal to the calendar.
I love it. Every time she's coming in, she's like, okay, this is what I'm coming. What do you have going on? What am I doing? And I'm like, oh my God, when you said you were coming this week, I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
Because this date was already
Like,
planned.
what can I be a part of?
Yeah, everything. So I want to talk about a bunch of things today, but the first thing I want to talk about is Athena Athletics, because that is your heart and soul right now. You just started it this year or 2023?
So it evolved. I started training athletes in like 4th, 5th, 6th grade girls, mainly lacrosse players, because I was a lacrosse athlete. So I'm in the lacrosse community, both
Shout out your college.
USC.
Okay.
Fight on, go Trojans. But yeah, like lacrosse, let's just start there. Like it's just blessed me in so many ways. And one way has given me this space in Manhattan Beach to support the growing lacrosse community, and female athletes there. And there's a ton doing so many different sports. And I had some parents ask me to like teach their kids how to run. And I was like, okay. I mean, I've done every type of fitness under the sun. And to be able to work with these younger girls was obviously just, I felt very connected to them because I was them at one time. And it just I really benefited from friendship circles and like a little bit of the keeping up with the Jones. Like,
What's a friendship circle?
meaning like, I want to do this because my friend's doing it.
Okay.
Oh, like Sally's going to go to Coach Carley.
Got it.
Allie has to go to Coach Carley.
Got it.
Rebecca needs to go to Coach Carley.
Got it.
You're going to Coach Carley. Well, you have to be going to Coach Carley. You're not doing Coach Carley. You got to go to Coach Carley. So word of mouth. And it's very, very social. And if you're not coming, I've also experienced that end of things. Like when people are choosing not to come, sometimes it's because their friends are not going. So I benefited from like people feeling like they need to do training, which is a whole other topic in youth sports. And it's like the overscheduling of youth sports. But anyways, teaching girls how to run. And then I had a gym, a home gym that kind of was able to open up to that group as they got more mature. And now we are in a real gym that I'm renting space out of and getting these girls to use barbells going in 8th grade, going into high school, squatting over 100 pounds.
That's so cool.
So it is so sick. And I've gone from just lacrosse players. Now we have like 12 different sports represented. And I operate year round, but the girls come in and out based on their sports schedule.
And what's the age group that you sort of would say you are mostly?
Mostly 5th to 8th grade. Okay. And we now are like 6. I have a couple more high schoolers. And it's just a totally different demographic that I'm used to, that we're used to in fitness, doing like spin for, 25 and up. And how much the parent's life is involved in the child's participation.
So for the past, 6 or 8 years I've known you, I can remember really early on from first meeting you, which we're not going to go into that story. I think we have on another podcast. You were always a little lost because you did so much. You were just like, do I go this way or do I go this way? Should I do one-on-one? Should I do group? Am I doing yoga? Am I doing this? Should I start my own business? Should I work for this? But I need this. And you've always, randomly I'll get a phone call or a text from you. And I really appreciate that, by the way, asking my guidance, because it seems like I know what I'm doing most of the times, but it's definitely just like flying by the seat of my pants also most of the times. But I've always gotten those phone calls or texts from you. So it was really amazing when I saw you kind of made a decision. And I think that's the first thing I wanted to talk about in this podcast as we're going into a new year, starting a new year. A lot of people, career is like a huge, it's a big part of your life. And people spend a lot of their time doing things that, they think they should do, or maybe they went to school for. I'm not going to ask you how you do it, because that's not a question anybody can answer. But I do want to ask, when you made the decision to kind of pick something and kind of go forward with it, take a risk, did you wait until like you had the business to do it, or did you do it knowing that the business would come? Like, did you wait until there was the demand to kind of make the switch? Was that what helped you to make the switch?
Yeah, that obviously gives you confidence, but you also have to know that. So there's two things. One, it's like to hear your reflection of me is really cool to hear. And to be honest, I still feel like I am confused. And because I ended up having to go back to get a job for security. And like that's a big part of the whole thing. Like it's a risk and you lose security for context, like I was working at a clinic as a registered dietitian part-time, coaching lacrosse and having this growing Athena fan base. And then Athena got to the point where I made more money coaching Athena than I did at my clinical job. And it really was frustrating to me that I paid like $70,000 to get a master's in nutrition, become a registered dietitian. And I'm sitting at this part-time job looking at the people who are ahead of me, being like, I don't want their life. I don't want their job. I don't want to do this. And so like the second Athena can do better than this, I'm out of here. And Athena has done so well and still didn't give me the security that I needed to live in California and fly home when I need to. If I get sick, if I'm out and I can't be there, I don't have coaches to help me out yet. So it was like, I took the risk. I did it. I did 100% full-time Athena. I did some online nutrition coaching for 1 year and I said, we're doing it for 1 year, and it didn't stop. And I went 110% for 1 year.
Love it.
And it was really cool yesterday to sit down with my brother, who's now getting his MBA. So I'm like, yo, financial consultant.
Nice.
Do some financial advising. Thank you. And to have looked at all the financials that I've kept and bookkeeping that I've kept for a year and look back on like, this is where you spent too much money, that to actually have data, like, and I made the decision. So to answer your question, the decision was a little bit connected to my age too. It's like,
Okay.
I'm 29 years old. I've had this business on the side that's always functioned.
You're 30 now.
I'm 31.
31 now. Okay.
But at 29 years old in 2023, I was like, I have this growing thing that if I feel like if I gave it 100%, I'd really like to know like what it could be as almost like a bucket list item.
Yeah.
I wasn't, yeah, because I knew it was still risky. And I was like, I'm doing it for a year. And now I have data to be like, how much do I like entrepreneurship? What group in-person training, online one-on-one coaching? Like, I still have all these different things that I can provide. And I think I'm at a point now where like, it's still not crystal clear, but I'm definitely more aware of what I like doing the best, where I show up my best self.
Do you think it'll ever be crystal clear? Like, do you feel?
Well, I don't know. I think I also did it because you have to, and I feel like a lot of your listeners could relate to this, like being a woman and like wanting a family or not, like having to consider that with your job. Like being a dietitian and a fitness coach is cool because you can do the part-time, full-time, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I was actually in this process looking at all the women who are very successful. There's the fitness health coaches type, and then there's like your dietitians running private practices. I was doing a little bit of both. And very clearly saw the women who were most successful were not single.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, Carly, like, you have to remember, like, you're not going to be as successful as them because your business pays for your whole life. It pays for the business expenses and it pays for your life. And I was able to do it because I didn't have a ton of overhead.
Okay.
And in order for it to grow, I need more overhead. So it's just been a big lesson in like how to run a business.
How does the relationship correlate to the success of the business?
I just think having like, I don't know what it is. I'm just
Oh,
noticing like
okay. You just observed
women
it.
who are not single, like a lot of the mom CEOs
Got
were
it.
running the best private practices.
Got it.
Because maybe, I don't know, I'm like, well, one of my biggest business expenses is my health insurance.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
I have to pay for that by myself and my rent. And if I want to travel, like the business pays my flight home to New Jersey for Christmas.
How do you define success? When you say they have the most successful businesses, what are you seeing that's telling you that they're successful?
True. Well, I don't actually know, right? It's just
Well, like, yeah, how do
but
you define it?
some of the dietitians are running like now they're doing how to make a 6-figure private practice.
Got it.
So to me, I'm like 6 figures, that would give me a lot of financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have support of another human
Yeah.
helping provide for like their home and I'm assuming they're getting support with that stuff,
Yeah.
you know? So it like validated that like you're there, but maybe you're not there yet. And like it's okay if you have to go back to work to get some of this stuff because like you need support.
So right now, as of today,
Yeah.
you are working part-time, full-time?
I have so I'm back to, I was asked, did not pursue, but was asked to run a nutrition, the dietary side of an eating disorder clinic.
Okay.
And that's why I include food behavior is like a huge part of what I do because knowing the facts about food and nutrition is one thing, but being able to understand like someone's decision to change a behavior really is what it all comes down to.
Yep.
And I'm just seeing the most extreme cases of that, which has helped me tremendously and just like my philosophy around health. And it still is like ever changing as I get more and more cases.
Is it women and men this class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's co-ed. And it's anywhere from 12 to like 60 years old.
Okay.
So you're getting people in all different phases of life. So I'm the dietary manager at an eating disorder clinic called Malaga Cove in that area. And then after work, I'm just running Athena, which I've decided is like the thing I love the most. Doing online nutrition coaching was awesome, but I feel like being in person, group dynamics, group class, like where we met, like the group and the energy and
That's
the
where you
camaraderie
thrive.
and being able to facilitate the connection between people is the best. And that's why I actually don't like, I do like this clinical setting because it kind of runs like a classroom. Like it's a school for people who are trying to learn how to eat again, like you would go to school to learn math and science.
I mean, that job is really valuable for everything else you're doing. And just for, I mean, you're going to learn a ton there. But what I would like to observe and comment on how to find what you want to do and it being crystal clear and, you know, doing what you love. I think there is a misconception that doing what you love is absent of things that you don't like. And there's a lot of things I do that I don't like, but it's so that I could do what I love. And so I think whatever it is that people want to do as a side hustle or you're never going to, you can definitely fill your time and days and find out where you feel, you know, the most lit up. But to grow any business, in my experience, there's also components that you're not going to like so that you can grow the part that you love.
Right.
And a year is a great amount of time for data. And I can't remember, I think it was Gary V, where I'm sure a lot of people have said this, but if you're not willing to do something for 10 years, like just but like that's where you're going to see, like, can you be consistent for that amount of time? And I don't think you have to give up your day job to find out. I think what you're doing is really smart and it's realistic. Yeah. And you're totally right. That support aspect is essential. That was one of the ways that I was able to start a business is because I had support. If I didn't, I don't know, I probably would have done exactly what you're doing because that's really smart. Before I need to get into this before you leave because most people although starting a side business and hearing how you started Athena is amazing and inspirational, you are an expert on food and nutrition. And that is the biggest, all the questions, all the concerns, all now they have different colors, in terms of like age and goals and seasons of life. And so I have a couple things that I wanted to go over with you. But the first is, and when I introduced you, I kind of quoted nutritionist because that's something that you are a nutritionist, but you're also a registered dietitian.
Yeah.
And not all nutritionists are registered dietitians.
How many times have you gone over this?
Yes. So it's
so annoying.
But it's so important to
Yeah.
distinguish it, and also distinguish it from just Googling something. Right. So like, what's the value of a registered dietitian and the information versus just like Googling something, or a nutritionist?
Right. So yeah. So a registered dietitian is like, the parallel I draw is it's kind of like registered nurse. We're part of an interdisciplinary clinical or medical team. And the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, or the Commission of Nutrition and Dietetics in the US, is like our governing body.
Got it.
And they gave us the credential RD. A few years ago, they added the N to say represent nutritionists. So we now have a choice. Do we want to be an RD or do we want to be an RDN?
Right.
And that was, I think it was to kind of soften the blow, because a registered dietitian can come off as like food police.
Right.
So they added nutritionist to kind of soften it, but then it got confusing because so many people in their regular language will just, anyone who's an expert on food is referred to as a nutritionist.
Right.
So then that like muddies the waters. So yes, registered dietitians can be referred to as nutritionists, but there are a lot of nutritionists with certifications or health coaches who've had personal experience, or which can be very good coaches.
Right.
Like you.
Yeah.
Like very good coaches, because again, it's about behavior change and who's going to inspire you to make the change.
Right.
There's a lot of dietitians who might be super research clinical who you don't connect with. So that doesn't mean we're going to be your best coach necessarily, but when it comes to like understanding nutrition science,
it's from you have the medical piece.
The biggest difference is that we can administer medical nutrition therapy, which is like a very specific. It gets down to like giving tube feeds to people in the hospital. TPN like is a IV that you would give someone. You could kill someone if you don't give them the right. There's a lot of math involved in like that. So that's that's the most clinical.
Right.
But even in I'm in eating disorders, like extremely clinical, very behavioral, but you wouldn't just have any nutritionist come in and help someone with anorexia or binge eating disorder.
Yeah.
So
there's some medical and science, or a lot of, you went to school, you have a degree in it, and then additional certification as well beyond the degree.
Exactly.
I want to, so I have a really FLK method. We have a couple ways that we do a quick fire. Our class is 15 minutes. At one point I had a quick fire picks email that was like 5 things. It didn't last long because I didn't feel like doing that anymore. But I am going to do a quick fire with you for nutrition because I have so many questions.
Cool. And let's see how concise I can be.
You're okay. And I was like, I was actually thinking of you, and I'm like, I don't know if this format's going to work for Carley.
No, it's like a really good challenge for me. Yeah, I've been called a yapper. I got a sweatshirt by a friend this week that says professional yapper. I was like, good. Let's try to be more concise.
It's amazing. So this will be your first challenge and lesson because you're only going to have 1 minute.
Okay. Okay.
So basically, if you can answer the question yes or no, just stick with that.
Okay.
Even though deep down you want to explain it.
Totally.
You just.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Let me grab my, and when the minute is up, if you're still explaining something, if you want to, we'll kind of
cut me off. It's fine.
Okay.
I won't be offended.
I have so many questions. So I also posted to ask for questions. So I have so many. So we'll get to as many.
Let's go.
In a minute.
I'm ready for it.
Okay, I'll start the clock after I ask your first question. Like,
we have the hit timer. Perfect.
The timer is there.
Okay, I'm not foreign to the hit timer. Okay. Also my best friend. So.
Wait, is the sound on? Hold on. Let's put the beeping on. I don't know if the oh, okay.
Wonderful.
You'll hear it beep. I don't think they heard it beep, but you'll hear it
My
beep.
family's gonna hear this. Like, let's do this at the dinner table.
Bring the hit clock up. Okay. Eat before or after a workout.
Both.
Is fasting good or bad for you?
Usually bad.
What, yes or no, supplements?
Yeah, really get some lab work and decide if you really need it.
What's your go-to breakfast?
Peanut butter toast and Greek yogurt with granola, chocolate granola, and berries.
Name 3 foods that can help reduce bloating.
Fermented foods, water, fiber-rich foods.
Same question to help blood pressure.
Fiber-rich foods, lean protein, whole grains.
Can nutrition help symptoms of menopause?
Yes, but not my specialty.
Oh, you had 3 seconds. Go on. We want to know
I
more
also
about
thought-
this one.
Okay. No, for menopause?
Yeah. Or what you were just thinking of something else.
No, I just
That was good.
wait, also, I thought I had a minute for each one. So that's amazing. Okay. I didn't that's amazing.
You just had 1 minute.
For all of those.
Yeah,
Wow,
we
that's
got a
amazing.
lot of information.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, there's like so many nuances to all of those, but the menopause one is actually the hardest question for me. Because I have never really I don't have a lot of clinical experience with women going through menopause, and I've never gone through it myself. And I don't even remember my mom going through it because she didn't even talk about it. So it seemed like not that big of a deal to her. Lucky for her. I've heard other women talk about going through it.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic right now. I'm actually going to be doing one of my podcasts about it.
Yep.
That's one of the things that, you and I have in common, where we don't like to talk about things unless we're going through it or have done it or have, but I have been fortunate to coach a ton of women at this
I'm sure.
point.
Yep.
That's like,
And I feel bad. I feel like I'm never as well versed. I will say this, like, based on what the experts that I have listened to in the field, in the dietitians, basic nutrition coaching that you would give anyone, it usually is consistency. Maybe you're going to tweak the amount of carbohydrates, or like if you're looking at macronutrient ratios, you'll tweak it a little bit, but it's still going to be whole grains, lean protein, fruits and vegetables. Like maybe your plate is going to be half fruits and vegetables instead of half your plate being starchy carbohydrates. And like maybe your protein's going to be a little bit higher.
Go ahead.
My last thing was it's actually like weight training. And that's why I've spoken to, there's a woman in Manhattan Beach who is like trying to change the story for the South Bay, is like the greater area that I live in Southern California, in South Los Angeles. And it's not too different than Morris County, but just women feeling like we're only going to do Pilates and yoga or like walk or be cardio bunnies. Like, don't be afraid of the weight room. That stimulus is going to change your insulin resistance and increase your muscle mass and help you, change your body composition from a higher muscle mass to less fat mass.
I do just want to, this is a great thing to end on, because this is something that Peter Griffin grinds my gears vibes. I get asked about protein, and I'm sure you get asked about how much protein should I eat? Several times a day, most days. Some question about protein, especially women over 40, and strength training. So I just want to ask and just be clear, to build muscle, because that's what we want to do when we're
That's
doing.
like the goal.
Okay. Yeah. So to build muscle,
that's going to help
what are the components? What do you do to build muscle?
You have to do resistance exercise.
Okay. Pause. What is resistance exercise?
Can look a variety of ways. Your own body weight is a form of resistance.
Oh, thank you.
Start with your own body weight.
Oh my God, thank you.
Never touched a weight before, don't go grab a 30-pound dumbbell.
This is so important for you to say, because this is similar to the whole, like, I'm going to get big if I start. It's like the amount of work you have to do to get big. A lot of people ain't even going to
Not even close.
You're not even, it's so hard to do that.
Right.
But I think the most important thing you just said, and I'm going to let you keep going, is that if you cannot do 10 push-ups, let's start there.
Yeah.
Let's just start with a push-up.
Oh, don't even pick up a weight if you can't move your own body weight.
This is great information.
I would even say like most guys, people in a gym, like I would love to see what everyone's push-up form looks like. You can't move your own body weight. That's why I think yoga is so fascinating to people, because you'll get these like super fit people who might like do these incredible things come into a yoga class and can't even hold up their own body weight in like a really good form in a warrior two, or struggle with a down dog. It's like, whoa, you don't have the mobility or the strength to hold your own body weight. So I think that's really important. Your own body weight is a form of resistance. Other ones that I think are underrated but I know are bands. I think bands are incredibly underrated.
You can pull.
Yeah, just like, I don't know, just think about all the people who also end up in physical therapy. Like,
Bands.
you're getting bands. So why not just do bands?
Yeah.
You don't go to, I call it prehab.
Yeah.
Do your prehab so you don't have to go to rehab, like, and do bands. Like, just make them a part of your workout or your warm up or your finisher.
When you're doing, let's say you're doing body weight, but you're also doing 5, 10, 15 pounds, like when do you know, like in your building muscle, journey, when do you know that you're not doing enough weight or to increase weight?
So I tell all my girls that, because I let them make all their own choices. It's like very much like athlete led. I'm not like, okay, time to do this. Like I'm not doing my job if I'm not, the whole point is for you to learn and be intuitive about like, oh, this is easy or this is too hard.
Yeah.
And so the last 2 to 3 reps of your set, and I think like generally speaking, doing anywhere from like 8 to 12 reps of something.
Which is like a minute, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
The last like 2 to 3 reps have to be good form, but like you're really struggling to finish. Bicep curl, for example. If you're like, the last 3 should be, then you're at a good weight.
That's good.
If you're feeling that, say you're doing 10 and you're feeling that at rep 4 or 5, it's too heavy. But if it's at 8, 9, or 10, you're golden. And you're going to keep doing that weight until 10, all 10 are like, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
This is easy. Time to go up. And only go up. So my rule of thumb for the girls too is upper body, go to 2 to 5 pounds every set. So if you are doing bicep curls, you're doing 10 reps. Say you're doing them 3 rounds of those. This was easy. Okay, do all 10. The second set, go up by 2.5 to 5 pounds. So if you started with 10s, now you're doing, 12 and a half. That's just the way they are.
Yeah.
It could be 2.
Yeah.
But 12 and a half or 15 is your next one. And then maybe you stay there for the third set because it's hard. But if that's also easy, then maybe you're hitting 17.5 or 20s on your third set. But you probably will stay at the same one for 2 weeks before you go up. That's how and just to speak to you're not going to go from 10 pounds to 25 pounds in 2 weeks.
Right.
It will take 2 months to get there if you're consistent.
If you're consistent. And so when do you know, or when do you stop adding weight? Like what is enough, and can you build muscle by keeping the same weight and let's say increasing the reps? Like, do you always have to go up?
You could totally increase the reps. Usually for hypertrophy, which is a fancy way of saying muscle growth. And then there's total strength. So it's like, can you do what's the heaviest weight you can do for 1 rep? I don't think the general population needs to be doing that unless you're like a bodybuilder or you're an athlete.
Right.
I think if you're staying within the 8 to 12 or maybe 10 to 15 rep range, depending on what it is, I think the next thing people should think about is be consistent with that stuff. Go up, go up, go up. Maybe go up in your rep count, but then start thinking about 2 things: tempo and how to be powerful. So let's do squats, for example, because bicep curls are bicep curls, but squats is a very athletic move. It's also very functional, and it's you need to be able to sit up and stand down for your entire life. Second you lose that, your quality of life is going to decrease. So being able to squat in a variety of ways: feet are wide, feet are narrow, feet are staggered. You're doing a single leg squat. You can do a single leg squat on one leg, but it's harder on the other leg. doing a split squat with a medicine ball with 2 dumbbells, offset, 1 dumbbell on one side, 1 on the other side. So then that's where fitness for me becomes really, really fun. And I know for you too, but like
Yeah.
the modifications
Functional.
and functional and
Yeah.
offsetting it and learning. Actually, I'm going to learn how to have better posture in my squat. Now that I built the leg strength,
Right.
now I'm really think about the orientation of my hips. Am I always in like a super arch, or am I always like under tucked, or can I find more of a neutral pelvis?
Yeah.
And so it becomes kind of like yoga, where you start to explore your body and how like there's one thing to be able to squat a lot of weight, but like, can you squat that weight with really good form? And can you actually like orient your spine and your hips to now we're like, for me, it's like I'm now pain free
Yeah.
because I've stabilized my spine.
Yeah.
And my squats become a standing core exercise for me. So I'm not on the floor doing crunches all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like playing around with all of that, keeping it functional, getting creative, and challenging yourself with being off balance, and doing one-legged things.
I'm so happy to have that this conversation worked itself in, and we talked about a bunch of things, but I always worry that strength training or like lifting heavy weights, because that's what most people attribute it to, and eating protein are going to, especially as we go into the new year for women, are going to be things that women obsess about, and you're forgetting about all the other things. Protein is not the only nutrient on the plate.
Right.
Weights are not the only type of movement. Like, because if you can lift 100 pounds, but you can't squat with proper form, or your back starts to sink when you're doing a push-up, or it's like mobility, Pilates for core, like yoga for mobility, lifting weights to build, or lifting weight that is giving your body resistance so that you can build muscle. It's just everything, going. And then you have the mental health aspect, and then and it's just, there's so much stuff to do. So I love this conversation, because it's like, yes, like let's do that, but also take into consideration that there's all these ways to look at it. It doesn't look one way.
And I would even say like weightlifting is very important, but again, like walking up a hill, treadmill on an incline, bike with resistance, all different forms of resistance exercise.
Yeah.
And I think what is really cool is when you have this component of like maybe lifting weights or using bands of your own body weight, and then see how they impact the movement elsewhere. Like, I want to give a really, I went on a run yesterday, pain free. Like, I can't tell you like how much joy that brought me to just be able to go and do it. It's because I put in so much time that like my core, like I don't miss a day of core exercise because I have a history of a herniated disc. So like it is so not about, like exercise has become so not about what I look like. It's a byproduct of it. And obviously like feeling and looking a certain way, but to be able to move pain free is like my number one goal. And it in a way, it reminds me like how lucky we are to be able to move. So anytime you're doing movement, if you make it about exploring your body and like learning to become more aware of things, you are more likely to become consistent. Wanting to look a certain way we all want to look good. We all want to feel good in our own skin, but I would encourage everyone to not make it the number one reason why they're working out. Make it the 10th reason why you're working out and put like all these other things in front of it, and you won't stop.
Yeah, I like the word explore for 2025.
Yeah.
If anybody's looking for a goal or a word, explore your career, explore your desires, explore your body, lots of different ways, explore your nutrition, explore your relationships. Like, just, I think having this end goal or one way to look at it, and listening to what everybody says, including us, like listening to what people say, like take into consideration the things you hear, but like put it into practice, explore, figure out if it works for you, figure out what you like, figure out what you don't like.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the best way to live. I love that. Explore. Thank you for coming and sharing and exploring. Is there anything final that we didn't ask you that you need to add? I feel like I have so many more nutrition.
Well, I would just say, I feel like we went on a couple of tangents there, but back to the muscle building journey. We talked about the fitness aspect.
Okay.
You can't just work out and then like not eat and think that you're going to build muscle. And you can't just eat protein and not do resistance.
There you go.
You have to have both. So yes, protein and resistance, but then outside of that, like you want to not just lift weights, you want to do a variety of resistance that can include cardio and all that stuff. And then with food, we can't forget, like can't put protein gets put on this pedestal because it's associated with muscle building, but protein cannot do its job without carbohydrates.
You hear that clap? Can they hear the clap in the microphone?
Like, even after my workout yesterday, like, I ate a sugar cookie and was like, yeah, it's sugar. And I'm eating a lot more of it this week than I will next week. And just because it's sugar doesn't mean it is also replenishing the glycogen that I just used on my run. And that is okay. I had to talk myself through that one.
Wow.
Because I had 3 desserts that day.
Yeah.
And I don't feel good. And I feel bloated.
Yeah.
And like, I don't feel good this week. But I went on a run just to do it. And I did it with pain-free. And I'm gonna eat a cookie after. And am I gonna do that tomorrow? No. But not because I have a rule about it.
Right.
And it still has a function. And yes, I'm prioritizing my high fiber carbs at all my meals. And I have my vegetables, but like, there are 50,000 cookies in our fridge. And I'm eating one. And it can still play a role in my fitness, even though it might not be the best one.
It's part of your diet. It's part of your diet. Eating a cookie should be a part of everybody's diet. Any whatever your cookie is, whether it's a cookie, whether it's ice cream, whether it's pizza, whatever you love should be a part of your diet. And just like everything else that I preach, just be intentional about it.
Yeah.
Start to practice intention, whether it's a salad or pizza. If there's intention behind it, it's going to feel good.
Right. All foods fit. That would be my last one.
All foods fit.
And when you can allow all foods to fit and you make new year, new me about how you want to feel. I want to feel pain-free. I want to feel energized. I want to feel confident. I want to feel fit. I don't want to feel bloated. I don't want to feel lazy. I don't want to feel heavy. It's not about looking heavy. I don't want to feel heavy and weighed down. And if you try to just commit to a feeling, and once you feel it, you'll know, and you're going to want to feel it all the time.
Yeah.
But once you figure out how to achieve the feeling, and it's not the feeling of control, manipulation, the control is the big one. You may not be when you can find the feeling, that's when I know I felt the most confident about being able to let everything exist together.
Yes.
Instead of only letting these things exist and never letting these things exist.
It's a practice. Takes a lot of work.
You have to explore it to get there.
Explore. All foods fit.
Yeah.
Fit is a mindset. I was going to say something that I'm not going to say. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Carley will always be back and we'll have many more conversations. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.